Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. We are now on day 175 since David Grusch has made incredible claims of the United States government being in possession of non-human craft, non-human bodies, and more. But so far, all I have seen is Mr. Grusch repeat stories from known UFO wackadoos, including Hal Puthoff, I believe, Lue Elizondo, the fake UFO program director that never was, and others. And it got me thinking, people are getting very upset with me for doing things like stating facts. In fact, people are getting very upset on Twitter at anybody who is doing things like stating facts. But we're going to begin tonight with a factual look into this whole situation. And, facts don't care about your feelings. So, I get it that so many people want this person to come along and confirm that all that UFO mythology that many people truly believe is real. But a guy with no evidence is not going to be able to confirm anything. And we are right now on the day since his first story broke. It was June 5th. So we are right now at 175 days and still no evidence. And it's interesting. We'll start tonight with a factual statement. And this is what gets people so upset. This was tweeted by me earlier today. Daily reminder, we are now at 175 days since Dave Grusch made his out of this world claims, and still no evidence has been shown to support his claims. Hundreds of thousands of dollars have been generated in monetized views from his stories, but still no evidence. And, I just think it's interesting that you can literally trigger people. People are getting triggered, right? And then what do they have to do? They have to start attacking me personally, insulting my appearance, claiming I'm a government disinformation agent. Hey, Einstein, that's a fact, Jack, right there. Those are facts, and facts don't care about your feelings. So regardless of what you think of this situation, you can argue with me all you want. Those facts do not change. We're at 175 days of this man telling out of this world alien stories, and still there has been zero evidence so far. Lots of excuses, but as detailed on this thread on my Twitter, by the way, you should follow me at Stephen Cambion, you can see that the excuses all fall apart. Well, information is classified. No, it's not. According to Dobser, the information's not classified, or they wouldn't have cleared him to even mention a program involving classified things. By definition, he was cleared to speak about non-human intelligence, about alien crash retrieval programs, about alien bodies. Therefore, those things are not classified. He could give us the proof that he claims he's in possession of. But here's the problem. So far, all we've gotten is vague statements from him about who his sources are. Though people claim he has 40 sources, that would be 40 anonymous sources. There's another issue that's really been bothering me, which is that when I go after people that certain people in the so-called UFO or disclosure arena really don't like, one notable example I could think of is David Wilcock. Oh yeah, he's a grifter, go after him. But David Wilcock and Dave Grusch use the exact same tactics. Oh, I've got 40 anonymous whistleblower sources, and I've got government insiders. Great. Can you give us their names? Both David Wilcock and David Grusch. Well, no, I can't. I can't tell you their names. Great. What other information do you have? Well, I haven't been cleared to share that information with you yet. But trust me, bro, they both use the same tactics. So what's the difference between a David Grusch and a David Wilcock? Maybe just time frame. David Wilcock, when he first came out, was much more grounded and a little more realistic in his claims and what he would talk about. I really believe that in a few short years, we're going to be hearing David Grusch talk about his alien abduction experiences and all kinds of woo. That's my personal belief and speculation, and I'm entitled to it. But back to the facts, Jack. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars have been generated by the Dave Grusch story by the people promoting and pushing his stories. That's a fact. Hundreds of thousands of dollars have been generated in the past almost 6 months now from a story that has so far presented absolutely not a single shred of any real evidence of the claims being made. So, I ask you, this is how you know that we're living in a delusional fantasy world here in the UFOville. Because if there was any other story on any other subject that went for 6 months and provided zero evidence, just endless speculation, endless commentary, endless play-by-play of what's happening today in this story with no evidence, everybody would say, this is bullshit. Like, where's the evidence? Or stop pushing these stories. But we live in delusional fantasy land here, where a former government whistleblower is just supposed to be believed, or former government worker is just supposed to be believed. But we've already been through this because we've been through Lue Elizondo. And he claimed to run a Pentagon UFO program. Later, it turns out we find out that program that he claimed to be the director of never actually existed, and he had no assigned responsibilities insofar as UFOs, according to the Pentagon. So, we've been through this delusional fantasy world before, and I think it's great. It's like living in a literal live action LARP. Live action role playing. Lue Elizondo pretended to run a $22 million Pentagon UFO funded program. Turns out he didn't. But it didn't stop him from talking about aliens and UFOs nonstop for literally years. And here's another. I'm not the only one who has noticed the time problems here with David Grusch. And I have a serious question, and I mean this in all sincerity. 100% genuine question for all of you people who are supporting Dave Grusch and his so-called disclosure efforts. We're almost in 4 short days, really. We're going to be at 6 months since Dave Grusch made these outrageous claims. I really genuinely, and I mean this with all sincerity, no bull here. At what point, even if you're a true believer and you really believe in disclosure and you really believe he's telling the truth, at what point, without evidence, do you jump off? Are we going to get, it's not at 6 months because that's 4 days from now. And my Twitter feed is still filled with zealots that are telling me how wrong I am. We're 6 months into this story, zero evidence. So I really want to know, let me know in the comments or in the live chat, at what point do you finally admit that maybe I'm right and this man has no real or verifiable evidence and he is indeed just repeating stories that known UFO wackadoos have told him? He's already in his interviews mentioned people like Hal Puthoff. Eric Davis talks about being close to him. You remember him, the man who claimed this very same thing, that we were in possession of non-human craft 3 years ago and never proved it. He's repeating stories from Lue Elizondo that turned out to be completely and totally fake stories pushed by known UFO hoaxers in the form of the William Brophy fake stories about Mussolini and the Vatican. Yeah, that story is completely fake. So at what point do you finally stop attacking me, a person who's just asking questions? And that's my question. Does he have any evidence? We're 175 days in and we haven't seen any evidence whatsoever, but I'm the bad guy for pointing out these facts. It's an ugly truth, but it's all the truth, and the truth doesn't change because of your feelings. So Sapphire Bushman writes, daily reminder, we are now at 175 days since David Grusch made his out-of-this-world claims. Still no evidence has been shown to support his claims. hundreds of thousands of dollars generated and monetized views from his stories, but still no spaceship. This is a real problem. I would think it's a problem, but somehow this whole thing has been built in such a way that they can give you convenient excuses. Well, oh no, he gave his evidence to the ICIG. How long does an ICIG investigation take? Does it take 6 months? When are we going to hear from the ICIG about whether, any of Dave Grusch's claims are actually credible? And there appears to be some problems because there's a lot of inconsistencies that are popping out now, right? And other problems with this man's truthfulness are being detected. But I thought we would begin tonight, I'm just amused, I suppose, by the number of people who are attacking me for stating facts. And, it gets really, really vicious. Like, if you have to attack my appearance because you don't like real and verifiable facts like I've just put forward, then you've already lost. You can, and by the way, I'm just going to put this out there one more time. I wear glasses for medical reasons because I'm half blind. So any of you assholes who are attacking me for wearing glasses, you're attacking a disabled person. Maybe there's some kids in wheelchairs you could go make fun of next who may equally not believe in your UFO bullshit delusions. It still doesn't change the fact that I've stated facts, and those facts are that we're at 175 days in and there's still no evidence. Now, there's a lot going on with this Schumer amendment, which is getting killed, and now there's brand new enemies of disclosure. Isn't it interesting that anybody that doesn't share a delusional belief system built on no evidence is somehow an enemy of disclosure? I think that's very telling, and it says a lot about the so-called disclosure movement, that all you have to do to become an enemy of that movement is to state verifiable, real facts. Then suddenly out come the sock puppet accounts. And by the way, someday my patience with brand new nameless, faceless sock puppet accounts attacking me is going to be at an end. And I'm going to take some steps, I don't know how, against Twitter or the individuals I believe are actually running those fake accounts. And we're going to find out who they are. And then what are you disclosure boner dorks going to say? Because we've got an on-the-record statement from Lue Elizondo admitting he uses sock puppet accounts to push his agendas and do intelligence gathering. But remember, I'm the bad guy for stating facts, verifiable facts. And now, isn't it interesting that even Joe Rogan is saying that this man is most likely a useful idiot, being used by the intelligence community to hide what? Advanced drone projects. You can check a broadcast from me 3+ years ago, and it's something called the Dark Playground Hypothesis. And in that piece, I speculated and hypothesized that all these intelligence people coming into the UFO community with fake stories and false narratives are here for a reason. And that reason very well may be to hide top secret programs involving advanced propulsion, drones, surveillance platforms that they don't want the American public to see or know about or even ask questions about. Therefore, it's better to just make people think they're seeing aliens when they see an unidentified flying object. That's right, I use the term UFO. I don't use the CIA term UAP. I'm just completely and totally amused by all of the people who would attack people for telling the truth or stating verifiable facts. And I've noticed there's other people that I see them doing that too. And it's the same group of people, and it's the same group of nameless, faceless Twitter brand new accounts, sock puppet accounts attacking other people. People like Mcgowan, who are proving these things aren't alien spaceships. There's a earthly explanation for many of these things. Or attacking people like Stephen Greenstreet or John from the Black Vault and a few others who dare to state facts. And that's another problem, fact checking. You know, there's whole books being written that are just filled with completely and totally false, fake facts. Stephen Greenstreet's pointing out some of that on his Twitter, and it's a laugh riot reading through a book full of lies and completely and totally fake information, specifically about Lue Elizondo and the whole fake Pentagon UFO program he claimed to have run. But this got me thinking, you know, I'm not an enemy of disclosure, but I'm going to help the disclosure movement. So tonight, I'm going to show you what won't bring UFO disclosure. Now, remember, all the people in my slide presentation tonight are part of this Dave Grusch push for transparency and disclosure. And they think that the government is running cover-ups and the government should come clean about the truth about alien visitors on Earth. But we're gonna review some of those very same people's previous evidence. And I'm here to tell you that these things are not going to bring you disclosure. So let's begin. All right. And by the way, I don't know where else to put this, so I just put this on my Facebook for now. I got to get a verified Twitter account so I can post more than a few graphics. But here we go. I'm going to help the disclosure movement. Here are things that are not going to bring you disclosure and are, in fact, hurtful if you truly want government disclosure about what they know about UFOs and aliens. These things are detrimental to disclosure, and yet somehow these are the same UFO celebrity scumbags that have been pushing lies for years that all you disclosure boner dorks love to lick the balls of and attack me for stating facts. By the way, everything in tonight's slide presentation is a fact, you disclosure boner rejects. So send some more sock puppet accounts, you losers. These are all facts. These are the facts of disclosure. Number one, a convicted pimp fake scientist with 100% fake education is not disclosure. It's a false, profit-driven narrative. A bankrupted fake scientist who never stepped foot on Area 51 and ran a whorehouse is not bringing you the truth or disclosure. That's a factually accurate statement. All right. Number two, a fake Pentagon UFO program director won't bring disclosure. Just let you know that a fake Pentagon UFO program director claiming he ran a UFO program for the Pentagon and then demanding that the Pentagon tell the truth about UFOs, that's not going to bring you disclosure. Because essentially the government's going to say, who is this clown? Look him up. What did he actually work on? Did he ever work on UFOs? Oh, that's right. He never officially worked on UFOs for the United States government. Full stop. So a fake program UFO director, and by this I mean Lue Elizondo, won't bring disclosure. And do you know how we know that he's a fake Pentagon UFO program director? Because it would be considered, I suppose, a form of slander for me to say that if it weren't true. Lue Elizondo has not defended the people who are calling him a fake Pentagon UFO program director. And in fact, his book, where he tried to market his book by claiming he was indeed a real Pentagon UFO program director, has been pulled from several book sites. Why is that? Further, this is another factual statement. Releasing videos that he knew were balloons, UAVs, and drones won't bring real disclosure because Lue Elizondo knew that those videos were not of alien spacecraft. And the reason we know that is because right in the emails to get these things released, it says unmanned aerial vehicles, balloons, commercial UAVs, private drones such as quadcopters continue to pose a potential threat to DoD facilities, equipment, and location. This is an email where he was getting those three videos released somewhat by bending the rules, according to Christopher Mellon. So he knew that those were balloons, commercial UAVs, or private drones such as quadcopters, etc. He knew those weren't alien spaceships, but he put them out and pretended that they were with a techno scam company called TTSA, pretending that they were going to bring you disclosure about aliens. And they used those 3 videos, right? But he knew those 3 videos were balloons, commercial UAVs, or private drones. It's stated in the declassification documents that he knew what those videos were. So, sorry, not sorry to tell you, a fake Pentagon UFO program director can't bring you disclosure. And releasing videos that you know are balloons, UAVs, and drones won't bring real disclosure, especially when he knew that those were not aliens. And hey, how about that Go Fast video, right? It's going thousands of miles an hour. No, according to Mick West and NASA, it was going about 40 miles an hour. So a fake UFO program director who's wrong about the data that he is presenting, that won't bring you disclosure. Pretending an object in a video is going thousands of miles an hour and defies the laws of physics, when anybody who can do high school level math can use trigonometry to figure out the actual speed of that object is 40 miles an hour, that won't bring you disclosure. Fake data and lying about what videos actually depict, that won't bring you disclosure. So when these people call me an enemy of disclosure, this is the retort. This is my response to you. If I'm an enemy of disclosure for stating real and verifiable facts, then what about these people? People pushing a convicted pimp fake scientist with a fake education as a government insider that they can't prove ever worked for the government? A fake Pentagon UFO program director who's lying about the data that he is presenting, claiming that the data supports ideas that it doesn't support? Aren't these the enemies of disclosure? I would think that these are the enemies of disclosure, because both of these things, propping up a fake scientist that's was really a bankrupted, convicted pimp who ran a whorehouse, or a fake UFO program director that can't tell the difference between an object going 40 miles an hour or thousands of miles an hour, or can't do basic first-year college level math to figure it out, or find a competent analyst that can figure this out, that's not a UFO expert. And both of these people make this entire subject matter worthy of mockery. So, hey, I found your enemies of disclosure today, and we're going to share more with you. Okay, so here's another enemy of disclosure. Fake pyramid spaceships that are drones will not bring you closer to disclosure. It makes a mockery of this whole subject. And by the way, people getting caught selling 100% completely and totally fake stories about UFOs and aliens constantly are not the people that are going to tell you the truth. So you mean to tell me that Jeremy Corbell was wrong about Bob Lazar, wrong about the fake pyramid spaceships, wrong about the Baghdad Phantom, wrong about the Mosul Orb, wrong about everything, wrong about flares being a giant triangle spaceship? He's been wrong about everything. The man who has been wrong about everything. And isn't it convenient that every time he's wrong about a story, he still makes tens of thousands of dollars on each of these stories? Wouldn't you like that kind of a job where you could be completely and totally wrong about everything you do, but still make tens of thousands of dollars every time you do it? No, friends, I found an enemy of disclosure, because fake pyramid spaceships that are drones will not bring you any closer to disclosure. And in fact, this makes a mockery of this whole subject. So could there be a reason why members of the United States Congress or United States intelligence community, whoever, are not taking this subject matter seriously? Yes, there could be a reason, and the reason is right here. Because of the clown show that your so-called disclosure heroes have been running for years. selling fake pyramid spaceships that are really drones as alien spaceships, selling a fake convicted pimp bankrupt scientist that never stepped foot on Area 51 as a government scientist. He was never a scientist and he never worked for the government. And Corbell doesn't care as long as he gets paid how ridiculously fake his stories are. But here are the real enemies of disclosure. My friends, I found them. And I got another one. I'm just trying to help disclosure tonight. So a fake giant alien triangle spaceships won't bring real disclosure. They were obviously flares dropped during training exercises. Pretending this is alien visitation on Earth is childish and stupid. And doing this damages the credibility of this entire subject. Wrong every time, Jeremy Corbell. You want to know why government is saying that, well, a lot of this is just fake? It's because of the people pushing the fakery, the fraudery, and the bull. The same people demanding transparency from the government have been selling you fake stories for years, in some cases decades, right? In some cases decades. Here's another one. Batman party balloons are not alien spaceships. Just letting you know that. And pretending that a Batman balloon is an alien spaceship, just in case you're curious, that won't bring you any form of real disclosure. Again, it just makes a mockery of this entire subject. These two clowns were sitting behind the new clown, Dave Grusch, during a congressional hearing. People who pushed Batman balloons, flares, fake alien spaceships based on drones through an IR lens, and they both also pushed the Bob Lazar fake scientist, convicted pimp, bankrupt loser that never stepped foot on Area 51 as a government insider. These are your disclosure heroes, people who have been getting it wrong for years, in some cases decades, and fill in their pocket can. These are the people you expect to get the truth from? You must be an idiot if you expect truth from people who have a proven track record of lying to everyone over and over and over again with their fake disclosures. These are fake disclosures. These aren't real disclosures. It only hurts your movement. So the next one, balloons. Balloons are not alien spacecraft. Just letting you know that. And pretending balloons are, or even maybe alien spacecraft or alien visitors from other planets is childish. And people trying to sell balloons as UFOs or alien visitors are idiots. There, I said it. I don't care how smart Christopher Mellon thinks he is. He's an idiot because he stood at a press conference in front of pictures of verifiable balloons claiming it may be an alien spacecraft that defied the laws of physics. No, that was a picture of a balloon. And pretending balloons are alien spacecraft will not bring disclosure. Full stop. Next. And again, these are all the disclosure advocates from the past 5 or 7 years, right? They all made a lot of money on all their fake stories and their lies, but they didn't bring us disclosure. But somehow this time it's going to be different. And let's be clear, all these same people are behind and with this Grusch thing, or many of them. Some of them are actively pushing, promoting, and profiting from Dave Grusch stories. At least Corbell and Knapp definitely are. So another point of finding the enemies of disclosure, I found another enemy of disclosure for all of you. Lying to investors, claiming one of your board members ran a $22 million official Pentagon UFO program is not disclosure. That's called a scam. Running a, quote, disclosure organization, unquote, and promising investors that you are building a spaceship with a, quote, revolutionary power source that will change the world is a lie and a form of investment scam. Techno investment scams like TTSA, which, by the way, included people like Hal Puthoff, Lue Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, and many of the same people that are pushing this Grusch story and promoting Grusch, it was a techno investment scam, in my opinion. And until they produce a spaceship, they can't prove me wrong. They promised people two things. One of our board members ran the official Pentagon UFO program to look for UFO threats. No, he didn't. He never ran an official program. They lied to investors while they were soliciting investment money. To the best of my reading of SEC guidelines and the laws concerning these things, remember, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but I can read. It's illegal to lie to investors while soliciting investment capital. But here we have two proven lies that they told during the TTSA Techno scam. Number one, they lied to investors claiming that Lue Elizondo ran a $22 million official Pentagon UFO program. He did not. According to the Pentagon, he had no assigned responsibilities within the Pentagon surrounding UFOs. Lie number two, they claimed they were going to build a spaceship with the money that they were raising. There were some other lies in there too, but we'll leave it at these two. So claiming that you're building a spaceship or that you have a board member that ran a UFO program for the Pentagon that he never ran is a lie and a scam. Techno investment scams and the people running them will never bring us real disclosure. It just shows the public that UFOs and disclosures is a scam and that the world of UFOs and aliens is filled with easily proven scammers who lie to people for money. That, my friends, will not bring us disclosure. Now, my favorite person pushing this, Ross Coulthard, who has been caught selling at least 5 completely and totally 100% fake stories, most of them about UFOs and aliens. Completely and totally fake stories he's been caught pushing. So there's another enemy of disclosure. And you know who else? We've got 2 enemies of disclosure here, because George Knapp is an enemy of disclosure because he claims that he knows where the smoking gun proof of UFOs and aliens visiting Earth is in the form of element 115. Maybe someday he'll dig it up. But hey, you know, even though he goes on the biggest media outlet in the world, he didn't dig it up for that. Even though he's sitting there at a congressional hearing that's supposedly looking for evidence, he didn't bring it up for that. That's an enemy of disclosure. He knows where the smoking gun evidence and proof. Forget about the government gatekeepers. We've got enemies of disclosure in our own midst. And when they're not doing things like pretending Batman party balloons or alien spaceships, they're pretending they know where the smoking gun proof of alien visitation on Earth is, but they can't show it to us. So there's an enemy of disclosure. And our other enemy of disclosure is, of course, Ross Coulthard, who claims he knows where a giant alien spaceship is on Earth, but he can't tell us because it's classified. Sure. And he's been caught selling at least 5 completely and totally fake stories, most of them surrounding UFOs and aliens. And this is before the Grusch story. We're not even counting the Grusch story, even though there were several lies and inaccuracies in his original interview, right? Things are cutting out now. Like, we can't have that question in there about, do you have any mental problems, right? So just to help you disclosure boner bros, I'm trying to help you figure out what will bring disclosure and what won't bring disclosure. People lying and saying that they have conclusive proof of alien technology when they have zero proof won't bring disclosure. That's called bluffing. And bluffing will never bring disclosure. It just shows people that those selling these stories are liars and scammers. Fake stories will never bring any form of real disclosure. People selling fake stories are all hurting, not helping the so-called disclosure movement. And how many of these people have been caught selling completely and totally fake stories? These are the people that you're going to for the truth, people who keep getting caught selling completely and totally fake stories. Doesn't at some point track record matter? How many fake stories is Ross Coulthard allowed to sell and, by the way, profit from before we say we can't believe anything he says without overwhelming smoking gun proof and evidence, because he has bluffed before, he's completely and totally lied before in stories. Oh, the Patchgate story was my favorite. Some guy told me that this is a patch from an alien crash retrieval program at Area 51. He could have done research and found out that it was connected to Area 51 before a radar program that had nothing to do with alien crash retrievals. He didn't do that. He took a speaking fee for a public speech in which he played up this fake alien disclosure story about a patch that had nothing to do with aliens. Then we get the ball shavings. He claimed he had conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man. Then they cut to a shot of Michio Kaku. Michio Kaku didn't confirm anything. So that story was a complete and total huge bluff and a lie. These are the people that are bringing you disclosure. These are your heroes of transparency, truth, and disclosure. People who keep getting caught lying to everybody, who keep getting caught selling completely and totally fake stories for cash. These are your disclosure boner heroes? Really? It's absolutely and completely and totally ridiculous. But welcome to Clown World. That's where we're at. We want to take a moment to recognize the live chat, whether you're chatting on the Rumble chat, the Twitch chat, the YouTube chat, the Facebook Live or Twitter feeds, or the pill.net chat. We welcome one and all. All right. So I've got a bunch of stuff to share with you, and then we're going to get into the Schumer amendment and how it is crashing and burning, and people are blaming the enemies of disclosure, right? One second here. Let me, boy, my Twitter's blowing up. Every day I post that countdown, people get upset. And I'm allowed to be amused. If you get that upset over actual facts and evidence being presented to you, and by the way, we are at 175 days, and David Grusch has provided zero evidence publicly. People keep going, oh, he gave the evidence to the Congress. Yes. And I personally spoke to a congressional staffer who listened to 11 hours of his testimony and said that he was a wackadoo and an unreliable witness. Tim Burchett admitted that congressional staffers listened to this man's testimony and then went to him and said, this is an unreliable witness. So maybe I have better sources than some of you, right? And maybe I'm well aware of the history of UFO whistleblowers making nearly identical claims to David Grusch, making a lot of money for years and years and years, telling and selling their stories, and never, ever providing the evidence of their original fantastical, out of this world claims. So I've got an awful lot to share with you. And let's not forget another enemy of disclosure, Gary Nolan, who constantly, well, I don't know about constantly, several times now has helped UFO grifters sell completely and totally fake narratives about aliens and UFOs by selling the credibility of his Stanford Institute, right, that he works at, and letting UFO grifters and scammers pretend that he's going to do some kind of analysis to prove that this is alien technology, and then never actually coming through with any evidence, just providing excuses and crying when people demand to see the proof that they already said they had. They said they had the proof before they ever aired the piece. The piece airs, everybody starts asking Gary Nolan for the proof. He loses his mind. He went full Joker. Lost his mind. What do you mean? Why should I have to give you the evidence or proof? Well, you and Ross Coulthard, the proven liar, who keeps getting caught selling fake stories, said you had conclusive proof of alien technology in the promos, right? And by the way, that piece of shit documentary was so bad, and they knew that they used deceptive practices. They had to take it off of YouTube. That's not a coincidence that it was so filled with lies and complete and total fantasies that weren't real that they had to take it off of YouTube. And by the way, what about transparency and disclosure? If you made a mistake and you just sold a completely and totally fake story about UFOs and aliens, if you overhyped and underdelivered, where's the transparency? Where's the truth? Why don't you just tell the truth about that situation? Why won't Gary Nolan answer any questions about that completely and totally fake story? Why won't Ross Coulthard answer any questions about that completely and totally fake story they pushed? Why won't News 7? I even reached out to them. Crickets. They don't want to talk about when they get caught selling a completely and totally fake story. They just want to shuffle away, do the Cosmic Con shuffle, hope you forget that last fake story, and then they shuffle on back with a new fake story, like Dave Grusch, in my opinion. We're going to listen to this. This is from the Good Propaganda Show, who, by the way, is losing his goddamn mind, claiming that paid disinformation agents, including me, I'm a paid disinformation agent. First of all, Matt Ford, you piece of crap, loser, parrot for UFO scammers. That's what you, if I'm a paid disinformation agent, then this guy, Matt Ford, is a paid propagandist for UFO scammers and liars, all of which have been caught selling fake stories and lying constantly. You're going to call people disinformation agents when all you do is blow these guys? All you do is parrot their fake talking points and repeat what they say, right? Oh, it's disinformation. They're government agents. No, we're people who are tired of you liars and scammers and grifters out here, and we're standing up to you. And it's glorious because there's more and more voices. And listen, if you guys think you've had it tough from me, wait till you get a load. There is a whole bunch of people that are sick of this shit that are starting to stand up and shout from the rooftops that these people are all lying to you. They're not telling you the truth. By the way, I shouldn't have personally insulted the propaganda minister, so I apologize for that. I'm going to try to not get personal and just let's try to stick to the facts. And the facts are that Matt Ford's running around telling everybody that the bunkers are here for the money when he's making 100 to 1,000 times what any debunker is making telling you the truth. That's a fact, Jack. And by the way, Matt Ford, if you will show everybody your YouTube income, so will I. And then we'll all know that you're a liar. We'll all know that you're completely and totally wrong. And no, you don't make this. You don't. Well, you can make money debunking, I suppose. But if you just go the UFO propaganda minister route like he did, you will make 10 to 1,000 times more money than people doing real, factual, honest, accurate reporting on these issues. It's proven time and time again. Look at how much the UFO circle jerk shows make. There are shows that started years after mine that blew right by me and are making 10 times what I'm making right now, what our income level is. And by the way, I'm not complaining. I'm just proving a point that this guy is lying through his teeth. And by the way, that's another stupid argument I'm sick of. If you idiots are going to come at me and tell me that what I do is a grift and just being skeptical and a debunker is my grift, listen, does that make any sense? If I was really here because I wanted money, wouldn't I just become a propaganda minister? And by the way, we might try that. I might take a full-on month and just interview wackadoos and just and repeat UFO celebrity talking points. I'll get in there and lick a few UFO celebrity assholes real good like this guy. Get in there, Matt. I think you missed a spot during this interview, right? And then we'll see the difference in income. We'll test Matt Ford's theory. Am I here for money? Well, let's go for the money, right? And my audience will forgive me for doing that for a month. I hope they will, right? We'll test the theory. But this ridiculous argument, oh, no, you're a grifter too because you're debunking things. And by the way, you idiots, 8-year track record. I have an 8-year track record of getting stories factually accurate. I haven't been involved in completely and totally fake stories multiple times, like Gary Nolan, like Jeremy Corbell, like George Knapp, like Ross Coulthard. Why do they get a pass for selling completely and totally fake stories, right? But I get attacked for having an 8+ year track record of not selling completely and totally fake stories, right? But people got to come up with some kind of excuse, right? Like, oh, no, you interviewed Anjali. No, we proved her story was completely and totally fake. That was great work, and I stand by it. Why does Matt Ford give this guy a pass for selling a completely and totally fake story? Wouldn't that make him an enemy of disclosure? By the way, now Matt Ford is experiencing poltergeists and shit. He's experiencing the hitchhiker effect. All of a sudden, he's having paranormal. He starts a show supporting the paranormal grifters, and now all of a sudden he's having paranormal experiences, right? It's so convenient. I love it. All right, let's get into this ridiculousness. Oh, but before I do, Charlie Parrish, who's a good follow, it's Mr. Hustle MCR on Twitter. He says, if you're struggling to find evidence of aliens and spaceships, just adopt the nutty Nolan science methodology by declaring, quote, you don't need evidence of aliens to conclude that they're real. Listen, take out aliens from that statement, right? If you take out aliens from that statement and include any other thing, it's completely and totally ridiculous. Like, what if I were to say that I don't need evidence of unicorns to conclude that unicorns are real? What if I say I don't need evidence of, I don't need any evidence of gnomes in my garden to conclude that gnomes in my garden are 100% real? That would paint you as a wackadoo, but somehow Mr. Science Guy over here gets away with it. And by the way, Gary Nolan is not the first accomplished scientist in areas that have nothing to do with physics or UFOs that have gone full on woo into the aliens and UFOs.
Does Gary feel that disclosure will come from the government or the...
Come from the... Oh, wait a minute. 1 second. We have to put my fair use banner up. Because Matt Ford, I'm here to tell you, if you false copyright claim me, you'll get the strike on your channel because I'm 22 or 23-0 now. Every time somebody falsely copyright strikes me, for those unaware, I'm using a concept called fair use, wherein I'm allowed to play his material from his show as long as I'm commenting on it and using it to educate the public and critiquing it. And that's exactly what we're doing here. But sometimes these guys don't like it when you play parts of their show and make them look like the ridiculous idiots that they are. So they'll copyright claim you. I have a great copyright claim defense letter or fair use defense letter. I win every single time. And I can't tell you how many people begged me to take the strike off of their channel after they lost. And I'm not doing that. You struck me. So just letting you know that this is fair use. I don't believe we've shared parts of his show before. Or maybe we have, but in a comedic thing, which is also fair use. Anyway, this is fair use. Let's see.
Does Gary feel that disclosure will come from the government or the phenomenon itself? Is there a sense of urgency to get this out to the public, would you say?
I don't think it's going to come anytime soon from the government any more than what you've already heard. But
and according to Gary Nolan and his Soul Foundation, disclosure is coming in 2030. We're getting full disclosure by 2030. And never mind that people have been saying this for decades, that disclosure is coming any day now. It's coming by 2030 for sure now. They're sure about that now.
What are people looking for? I turn the question around. What are people looking for? Are you waiting for them to tell you that it's okay? I mean, can you not see what just happened in the last week and presumably will be finalized tomorrow and not realize that that's a formal admission of truth? I mean, we were joking at the beginning of the hour. You've got a kid standing on a stool with his hand in the cookie jar, and turning, looking at his mother and saying, "Mommy, I'm not taking these cookies. I'm just counting them." I mean,
what kind of nonsense is he? This is just complete total nonsense. Kids in the cookie jars analogies, right?
That's what you just saw happen. I mean, so you really have you have disclosure right there. You just have to read it for what it is.
Oh, we've already got disclosure. Just like Lue Elizondo famously said, disclosure already happened. because all those things that I mentioned previously, promoting a fake scientist convicted pimp with a fake education, that was disclosure, according to these people, these wackadoos. That was disclosure. Pyramid spaceships that weren't pyramid spaceships, but were actually drones filmed through a certain triangle aperture lens, that was disclosure, even though it was fake, right? Batman balloons, that was disclosure. Christopher Mellon standing in front of pictures of verifiable pictures of balloons claiming that they may be alien spaceships, that was disclosure. This clown claiming that they had, with Ross Coulthart, these two clowns claiming that they had conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this renowned scientist. Cut to a shot of Michio Kaku. That was disclosure. Ross Coulthart selling a completely and totally fake story about a patch that had nothing to do with aliens. That was disclosure. No, all those things were fake. You're living in a fake fairy tale world here. You live in a fake fairy tale world if you believe that any of those things, which have been proven to be completely and totally fake stories, were any form of disclosure. And again, a fake Pentagon UFO program director claiming disclosure already happened is the height of clown world. A fake Pentagon UFO program director who lied about running a Pentagon program said disclosure already happened? Woohoo! Get that disclosure boner hard, right? But it's fake. So that's fake disclosure. What we've got is an awful lot of fake disclosure, people. That's what I think.
Again, I never have needed anybody's permission to come to the right conclusion. So, the NHI have been disclosing themselves to people all over the planet for thousands of years. So they're not.
Oh, disclosure already happens because people have strange experiences they can't explain. And look at Matt Ford. He's just beaming, right? He's just thinking about licking that butthole. That's what he's doing. He's just he's salivating there. I can't wait, right? And that's what you get, right? Matt Ford, why don't you ask him about selling completely and totally fake stories, or assisting in selling completely and totally fake stories, like the ball shaving story or the Atacama humanoid story? Why don't you ask him about making ridiculous statements, absolutist statements with no evidence, like non-human intelligence is already here 100%. Do you not? That's because Matt Ford believes that these fake disclosure advocates are bringing him real information, and it gets his disclosure boner hard. So it's okay if it's lies as long as it works, right?
Not going to change their tune, I think. Right. Even absent, I think what Chris Mellon was talking about in his talk. I don't think the government has disclosed as much as it dares at this point.
The government has disclosed as much as it dares. What has the government disclosed? Well, so far we've got NASA saying we have no verifiable evidence of extraterrestrial visitation on Earth. We've got the head of the real government UFO program in the form of Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick saying we have zero evidence of non-human intelligence or recovery of non-human intelligence craft on Earth or alien visitation on Earth. We have zero evidence of that. That's what the government has actually said. That, and your buddy Lue Elizondo never ran a $22 million funded official Pentagon UFO program. That's basically what the government has disclosed so far, that all of these fake disclosure advocates are living in a delusional fantasy world, and they're completely wrong, just like all their stories are completely and totally factually wrong and filled with fake facts, fake information, fake evidence, disinformation, misinformation, and just lies. That's what the government has actually disclosed, Mr. Nolan. Oh, sorry. So there's that. And I've got more to get to. Wise Monkey, also a good follower. Wise Monkey, it's at Wise Monkey UK, sharing the original letter that Lue Elizondo, an email that he sent trying to declassify those videos, in which unmanned aerial vehicles, balloons, commercial UAVs, private drones such as quadcopters, etc. So I guess he knew that those weren't alien spacecraft at the beginning of TTSA, even though they solicited people for investor money so that they can disclose the truth about those aliens. But he knew that these were balloons, unmanned aerial vehicles, and drones. Those videos were not alien spacecraft, and he knew that when he requested they be allowed to be declassified for internal use only, by the way. They were never supposed to be for consumption by the public. But hey, you know, if I were to take government information out of the Pentagon, I would probably be prosecuted. But one can speculate as to why no one so far, to my knowledge, has been prosecuted for taking those videos out of the Pentagon. It's a whole story. Let's get to the next data point that I have to share. All right, so we've covered the 175 days. Now, this is another great follow on Twitter. I'm going to start sharing more of them. And I like when people find and point out the data points this one I realized during the interview, but it bears repeating here. David Grusch explained how he reached 100% certainty that we are not alone. And then he goes on to explain that it's all from talking to people and his personal belief, not even the shreddiest of shreds. In other words, Dave Grusch reached 100% certainty that we are not alone because he talked to some people who told him stories, not because he saw any evidence that would support that we are not alone.
Did Harry Reid have personal experience with this?
I don't know if he's had any personal stuff in his personal life.
I mean, did he see it? Did he
said,
witness?
In terms of seeing the material himself, he said he was denied access.
That's another issue. These people are basically constantly claiming that if you're denied access to something, that means it's real. No, that's a false equivocation. And that's a real problem from a logic perspective. But people are constantly claiming that, well, he was denied access, so it must be real. Can't be any other reason.
For years.
When they deny you access, then you know it's a thing. This was from his Jesse Michaels interview. So this talking point has been repeated, I think, probably 4 or 5 times in the various interviews. Dave Grusch asserting that if they deny you access to it, then you know it's a real thing. Again, false equivocation.
Decades was his term. And he actually told me on behalf of me, he was going, so he had like a weekly call with President Joe Biden at the time. And he straight up said to me, he was going to talk to President Biden about this issue. Literally. Harry Reid didn't even get access. I fucking talked to him myself.
By the way, we're going to be able to fact check that statement because any calls made to the president are logged in their presidential library. We won't likely know that until after Joe Biden's presidency. In other words, if the president is taking calls from a senator, those calls are logged. The length of the call, the general, what discussion was had, every moment of the president's life is logged. So we're going to be able to fact check that, but not for quite a while. But I've made a note to fact check that. I'm very familiar with the presidential library system. And in fact, I don't know why, but I kind of became friends with one of the Reagan archivists in the Reagan presidential library because so many people make claims about Reagan and Star Wars and aliens and, all of these things. Interesting.
Can confirm that. And he said he was going to go talk to Biden. Are we alone? Well, the answer is we're not alone. And I know that with 100% certainty, which as an intel officer, you never say 100%, but all things pointed towards, based on the people I talked to, like Harry Reid, and I use him as an example, but I talked to the highest of the high people you could possibly talk to.
Somebody joked that he must have been talking to Snoop Dogg and maybe Willie Nelson because he said he talked to the highest of the high people. What does that even mean? You talk to high people? Who told told you that the aliens are real. So that convinced him. He talked to the high people. Okay. And by the way, Harry Reid was a wackadoo himself who had all kinds of strange beliefs. He believed in werewolves at Skinwalker Ranch and poltergeists and aliens. And, you know, I guess he believed in smoking dogs and dogmen and werewolves at Skinwalker Ranch, and helped to waste $22 million chasing werewolves, dino beavers, and more. So these are the people that are convincing him that aliens and UFOs are completely and totally real and visiting Earth. Complete and total wackadoo, in other words.
To catch my drift. So unless all of them are lying and they're covering up something else, which I don't even know what it would be at this point, because the phenomenon is real. It's been going on for thousands of years. People have been seeing strange things, and not everybody's mass hallucinating.
Yeah, and that I would 100% agree with. But people mistake the phenomenon of UFOs being real for aliens being real. They jump straight to the aliens, and that's a real problem, because here's the deal. Yeah, there's always been things in our skies we can't identify. You can look all the way back to the late 1890s, the airship mystery. That was before the Wright brothers, and there was things in the skies that people didn't understand or couldn't identify. Doesn't mean those were aliens. Look up the Aerodyne Club, right? A group of people who were experimenting with dirigibles is most likely responsible for the airship mystery. Dirigibles and blimps. Didn't mean those were aliens, right?
Though I have some firsthand knowledge I eventually talk about someday. I'm trying to get it cleared, but
he claimed that he had no firsthand knowledge. It was just things that people told him. Now he's claiming he does have firsthand knowledge, but he has to get it cleared first. So many people messaged me and were real upset that he got on Rogan. I was happy, especially when I saw it was 2 hours and 40 minutes. Let this guy talk for 2 hours and 40 minutes every day, because the more he talks, the more he contradicts his previous statements and shows himself to be what the congressional staffers I talked to claimed he was, a, quote, unreliable witness, unquote.
trying to get it cleared, but
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20, 30.
It's at Tekken Fighter on Twitter. Shout out to at Tekken Fighter. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing his wonderful video from Twitter. I think we need more of videos like that, because it just displays that, number one, Dave Grusch can't keep his story straight. And that he is being informed by literal wackadoos who are convincing him. Now, there's a whole bunch more stuff. I have on my Twitter a whole thing. D. Dean Johnson, excellent researcher at D. Dean Johnson, just completely destroys Christopher Sharp and shows what a clown that guy is. Completely and totally factually inaccurate statements. Now we have John from the Black Vault, and this is great because we've got Lukatsky now saying that the Pentagon program that Lue Elizondo ran was real and was funded, but in his book, his previous book, he claimed that it was not a real program and not funded. So we have some real problems with, people love it. Like, oh, see, Lue Elizondo ran a real program. Then why then did he say the exact opposite of that before? It makes no sense, but welcome to clown world. John from the Black Vault. He denies working for OSAP before he admits working for OSAP. We're talking about Lue Elizondo. Or wait, the other way around. Ooh, who cares about facts? He says, I was officially asked by Dr. Lukatsky to assume the role of OSAP's chief of CI and security. Well, that's not a director role, but okay. He explained to me that this effort was fully endorsed by senior DIA leadership, and he had already received approval by the program sponsor, Harry Reid, Ted Stevens, and Senator Daniel Inouye. Nobody can verify that. Next, he says, while supporting the OSAP effort, I was informed by Dr. Lukatsky and other OSAP personnel about a specific effort within the portfolio known as Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, and most of my efforts will be focused on that aspect of the project. Then we have Lue Elizondo. It has been brought to my attention that despite my constant assertion in the media about my non-involvement in OSAP, for some are under the false impression that I was part of it. For the record, again and again, I was not part of OSAP. Well, he's contradicting himself, directly contradicting himself in statements. These are the liars that are going to bring you the truth about aliens and UFOs. This guy can't even get a story straight about whether he was part of something or not. It depends on when you ask him. And that, my friends, is the mark of a liar. The mark of a liar is that they get caught lying because they can't keep the lies straight after a while. Well, Elizondo is just one of those liars, in my opinion. Next, we'll move on to more that I have to share. I thought I had a few more videos here. Yeah, this is great. So Stephen Greenstreet correctly points this out. This is another great point. And this is at the Soul Foundation Symposium. Carl Nell presents lines of effort that moved humanity closer to alien truth. This includes NIDS and OSAP, two efforts that chase ghosts, werewolves, and Bigfoot at the Skinwalker Ranch. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me make that bigger so you can see that. He also quotes the false 2017 New York Times article played a role in moving humanity closer to alien truth. It's blurry, but it looks like this chart says global alien disclosure will happen by October 2030. Yes, I blew it up, Mr. Greenstreet, at Middle of Mayhem on Twitter. Great follow. Yeah, it does say alien disclosure. So basically, Carl Nell, who's one of the people co-signing the Grusch story, right, claims that NIDS, that's Bigelow's attempt at studying the paranormal, and OSAP, two efforts that chase ghosts, werewolves, and Bigfoot at the Skinwalker Ranch, and the false 2017 New York Times article played a role in moving humanity closer to alien truth. And this brings us back to my point before. Listen, the things that are completely and totally fake are not bringing you any closer to disclosure. They are hampering efforts at disclosure because they are misinformation, disinformation, false information, fake information. Those are lies. They don't move the ball forward. That's another phrase you're all going to be hearing very soon. Oh, we're moving the ball down the field. We're really making progress here. How are you making progress pushing false information, fake information, disinformation, and literal fake stories and lies? How is that helping your disclosure effort? But again, you can't let things like facts and evidence get in the way of your disclosure boner. You just have to pretend that, you know, this is a good thing. And now I mentioned it briefly. By the way, I don't watch his show, but thanks to those that do, I guess like Stephen Greenstreet, Matt Ford, who hosts a UFO late night talk show. Yes, that's a thing in 2023. I don't know if Mr. Greenstreet is aware, but there are a host, a multitude of what he calls UFO late night talk shows and what I call UFO circle jerk shows. You know what those are. Those are when the host just circle jerks and gives softball interviews to UFO scammers, liars, and fake storytellers. Oh, he gave us a timestamp. Let's open that up. He claims that he is experiencing paranormal phenomenon, right? Let's share that. Again, we're going to cite fair use. This is great. The Good Propaganda Show.
National security person.
By the way, Matt Ford, I'm going to ask you publicly, what do you do? What do you do when you go to those foreign Asian countries? Because there's a lot of stories roaming around and rumors. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but what is a 50-year-old man doing going to those Asian countries for a month at a time? I'm just curious. And is that too aggressive a question to ask you? Just curious, you know, personally. I mean,
that said, our entire life, we may never understand where this is from. And I can tell you, I was fucked up for about 2 days trying to process, because I think it's one thing, to hear it on UFO Twitter or something, but when you have a senator's office and their national security staff tell you this, and this would have been beginning of 2022. Anyway, right around that time, I began having extensive conversations with Robert Hastings. And at that point, about 2 days later, some weird paranormal stuff started happening in the house. And shortly thereafter, orbs began showing up above my house. And not neighbors, but friends of ours witnessed it. My wife.
Great. Can we interview all those people to verify your story, or are you full of shit?
And it is
it's such a coincidence. He starts a paranormal talk show where he champions all of these wackadoos telling fake stories, and now he's got his own fake story about paranormal activity that he's experiencing, and he's got about as much proof as David Grusch has of his claims, right? Or Gary Nolan or Ross Coulthard. Now he's in the club. He's experiencing orbs and paranormal activity after becoming involved in the fight for disclosure. Sure. And it's not a coincidence, right?
Continued to this day. The last significant orb appeared above our home. I wasn't there to witness it. My wife and a friend of ours that was very alarmed by it witnessed it. So it's continued. But the point I was making to Chris Mellon is, being someone that has never experienced any of this his entire life, and the same thing for my wife, the only thing that I could kind of surmise was it was due to me beginning to looking into it, or as part of the hitchhiker effect. Robert Hastings has always said it was probably the hitchhiker effect.
Oh, he's experiencing hitchhikers, just like the people at Skinwalker Ranch, that spooky ranch that has werewolves and smoking dog men, right? They got werewolves and smoking dogs and dog men, and they got dino beavers, and they got the hitchhiker effect where poltergeists follow you home and attack your family. Now, Matt Ford is under hitchhiker attack. This is so ridiculous. This guy is a clown show. Clown show. But hey, keep attacking people telling the truth, right? Keep attacking people telling the truth about all of this, while you are helping to spread disinformation, false information, fake information, and lies, right? Keep attacking debunkers, claiming that they're here because they're getting paid to debunk things. How much money have you made since you started your show? I guarantee it's more than mine, and you started years after my show. But I have an 8-year track record of providing verifiable facts, evidence, and accurate stories. What's your track record like? All you do is promote proven people who have been caught selling completely and totally fake stories so far. That's the whole point of your show, helping people like Gary Nolan, who sold fake stories, helping people like Ross Coulthard, who sold fake stories. How many people selling fake stories are you going to promote before people see through the facade that you are a propaganda mouthpiece for people that are selling disinformation? Matt Ford, you clown. All right, we're going to get into some of the rest of what I have to share. Just a few more things. Yes, so David Grusch claims that he had direct evidence. He claimed that he had direct evidence suddenly on the Joe Rogan podcast. But that doesn't seem to jive with what he said before. He said something different. And this is, again, from Tech N Fighter on Twitter. We're going to cite fair use and share this. This is from the Jesse Michaels YouTube interview.
First moment where you saw irrefutable evidence that what you're dealing with is truth, is reality?
There were certain military cases, we were analyzing that I just really couldn't explain in a prosaic fashion.
What can you tell me about these craft? Why do you know it's exotic?
Based on the very specific properties that I was briefed on, isotopic ratios that would have to be engineered for it to be at those levels.
And who pushed that story before? His boss, Gary Nolan, who's been provably involved in fake UFO and alien stories multiple times before. He's the one talking about isotopic ratios being engineered and, So Dave Grusch is repeating Gary Nolan's talking points. Where's the firsthand irrefutable evidence? So far, he's repeating stories being told to him verifiably by people who've been involved in selling fake alien and UFO stories multiple times before.
Of course, read some, intel reports that were provided to me in that regard. And, I took that and I went to the agencies that, wrote those reports and asked for access. And when they deny you access, then it's a thing.
When they deny you access, then it's a thing. False equivocation. And by the way, I just want to make a mental note. There's another goofy shot of Dave Grusch, former mental patient, telling stories about aliens and UFOs for 175 days now with absolutely no evidence. His story keeps changing and evolving the more that he talks.
So it's and that's what happened to me time after time over a couple of years.
So there wasn't a singular moment where you're like, just open the folder and you go, what the fuck is that?
It was kind of like a slow burn culmination as I was processing it,
No mention of direct evidence or knowledge. Yet on the Joe Rogan podcast, he says he has firsthand knowledge. Wouldn't the firsthand knowledge be more convincing to you than people telling you stories or reading fake documents from people like Lue Elizondo?
Allowing my worldview to open. And yeah, I don't know if there was a singular moment. I think it was, some of the really, really trusted high level people we talked to when they, stared us straight in the face very seriously and, confirmed a lot of this information.
Stared us straight in the face and confirmed a lot of information. Now we have Ross Coulthart, the man who's been caught selling at least 5 completely and totally fake stories in recent years. To those who persist in falsely asserting that David Grusch had no direct evidence, he makes it very clear here that he actually brought witnesses with direct knowledge to Congress. Hence now the historic Senator Chuck Schumer amendment. David Grusch says, according to the folks that handled the analysis of the biologics, there are a variety of beings in a certain number that the U.S. knows about. To those who persist in falsely asserting that David Grusch had no direct evidence, witnesses with that direct knowledge, not Grusch. According to other folks, not Grusch. He has no direct evidence. He has no direct knowledge. Yet on Joe Rogan now, he says he has direct knowledge. You see the problem? The story is falling apart before our very eyes because he can't keep his story straight. What if they don't allow access? Ask for access. What if they don't allow access? Then it's a thing. Yeah. Absence of evidence is not evidence, but it is to some people who are so desperate to believe the delusion, and that's at Tekken Fighter on Twitter. I would highly recommend you check him out. If you want to see more critical look into some of these claims being made, because they fall apart. Here's another thing that Jason Colavito, he's one of those paid government disinformation agents, according to Matt Ford and other stupid people. Here's another thing. Jason Colavito, he says, I'm pretty sure he's being sarcastic. He says, help me out. There's another possibility for why he says things on TV and a podcast that he refused to say under oath. So,
and Lockheed Martin was complaining basically like, look,
let's
Lockheed Martin was,
let's see what he says on a podcast versus what he says under oath. Why won't he say the same things on a podcast or under oath that he says on a podcast?
And Lockheed Martin was complaining basically like, look, like the secrecy is ridiculous. We can't even bring the right engineers. Like, imagine you're like a hot engineer, a hot shot engineer. You might be hot too, I don't know. But that, you're fresh out of grad school. Maybe you're like the best PhD electrical engineer. You want to do cool shit. You want to publish an IEEE. You want to climb the ladder corporately, and that kind of thing. A Lockheed Martin executive comes to you. Yeah.
By the way,
dude,
it's fair use.
I can read you into something really crazy, but you're never going to publish papers on it. You're never going to be able to tell people what you worked on. And it's probably not the most career enhancing, but if you want to work on something cool, but I can't tell you because
this is complete and total 100% absolute speculation. He has no evidence for what he's talking about here. But, that shouldn't matter because he's had no evidence of anything he said for 175 days. Why should we expect evidence now?
it's unacknowledged until you sign this piece of paper, non-disclosure agreement. Sorry, but here's the raw deal. And, a lot of people are like, fuck you, no. And it's not like Lockheed Martin could broadcast this to universities like, come work for us.
Right.
You'll work on crazy shit. But that is very akin to a lot of other black programs in the government that are unacknowledged in nature. You don't know what you're signing up for until you get bred in. And I've been briefed to a lot of that kind of conventional stuff in my career.
Okay. So this is what he says on a podcast. But he says something completely different.
Because I only have
under
a minute
oath.
left. I apologize. We only have 5 minutes today. But for the record, if you were me, where would you look? Titles, programs, departments, regions, if you could just name anything.
Now, on Joe Rogan, he named Lockheed Martin as being holders of the alien secrets, right? Why can he name them on a podcast, but not when he's under oath? That's a real problem.
And I put that as an open question to the three of you.
I'd be happy to give you that in a closed environment. I can tell you specifically.
Thank you.
So he can't, it's classified, so he can't talk about it in an open session of Congress, but he can talk about it on the Joe Rogan podcast. He can give Joe Rogan specifics that he's not allowed to give senators. Man, maybe Joe Rogan really is a CIA asset and he's got clearance. And that's why he could tell Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan podcast exactly who has the alien technology, but he can't do it under oath.
Now, because I only have a minute.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And this blows away all the excuses. Oh, he can't share evidence because it's classified. Then why is he sharing evidence, alleged evidence, right? He's making statements of fact without facts and evidence to Joe Rogan, but he can't do it when he's asked under oath. Why the discrepancy? Why can he tell Joe Rogan more than he can tell a sitting senator or congressperson? If you think this makes no sense, you're right. And this blows away the entire Grusch defense of he can't share evidence because it's classified. Well, apparently he just violated the classification and pointed out, he fingered Lockheed Martin. They've got the alien technology. That's a severe, real problem. And it may display to you, same thing. He said more in the News Nation interview than he was willing to say under oath. Why is that? Yeah, I think we know why that is. Maybe because he can't get his story straight, right? And yeah, and there's a few more points we're going to make here. This is an excellent point brought up by John from the Black Vault. God bless John and the Black Vault. Why hasn't David Grusch released what he had jobs to review? He often references it, but doesn't show it. Why? Here's what I could get from the DOD, but Grusch's part is redacted for privacy. Well, David Grusch, what kind of disclosure advocate won't disclose a document that he has the right to disclose. This doesn't look good for transparency, right? He's a disclosure advocate, but he can't release the Dobster document. He could, but he hasn't. Why is that? That's a real problem for you transparency disclosure people. You want transparency from the government, but we can't get it from your so-called UFO whistleblower. I think that has a real problem. And of course, John's getting attacked for even bringing up this thing, right? And Stephen Greenstreet here. This is great. So there's a whole effort now to attack the enemies of disclosure. UFO activists seem to threaten war and insurrection if wacky flying saucer legislation isn't passed by Congress. They blame Mike Rogers, Mike Turner, Leader McConnell, and Speaker Johnson for proposed UFO laws being on the chopping block. And this is from Christopher Sharp. One source familiar with the negotiations told the fake Liberation Times, that's what he runs, another propaganda mouthpiece for wackadoos, quote, when supposed leaders like this use the American people's interests as their fodder, we should be reminded of what sparked the American Revolution in the first place. These individuals would be wise to remember that. They're literally threatening senators with revolution and violence if they don't get what they want. And what they want is this very flawed UAP resolution, the Schumer Amendment to pass, but we're going to break that down for you next. There is a complete and total disconnect between the people living in loony la-la land who don't even understand what's actually in this legislation and why it is so problematic. By the way, in the description of this video, I shared 2 articles that really do a better job than I can at explaining why this Schumer Amendment should be killed. It's extremely, extremely flawed. It's not going to bring you disclosure. It's going to create more problems with transparency, more problems with secrecy and lack of disclosure. But hey, don't let things like facts and evidence get in the way of a good fake story that you too can sell. And it's interesting, Ross Coulthart is calling for people to be tarred and feathered if they are perceived to be enemies of disclosure. So we've got multiple people. And I have that clip to share with you as well. Multiple people, by the way, both these people are not United States citizens, and they're calling for violence against members of the United States government. Make no mistake about it, this is dangerous rhetoric. And I, for one, commented recently that what are these guys going to say who are calling for violence against members of the United States government if some alien UFO true believer wackadoo hears them and goes and, God forbid, shoots and kills one of those so-called members of disclosure? Shouldn't they have some culpability if that situation arises? And haven't we already seen people being doxxed and threatened, intimidated, their works, their employers harassed, their customers harassed, right? We've already seen that. We haven't seen the level of violence that these people are calling for, but it's very troubling. And by the way, Ross Coulthart would be considered one of those enemies of disclosure, since he knows where a completely and totally giant alien spaceship is that's too big to move, so they build a building around it. He knows exactly where that alien spaceship is, but he won't tell us. Wouldn't that make him somebody that's blocking disclosure? Does that mean that he should be tarred and feathered and taken behind a Humvee and stoned to death? I mean, this is the rhetoric. This is the level that we've reached from these delusional fairy tale hucksters. By the way, Ross Coulthart, you've been caught selling at least 5 completely and totally fake stories. You are a foreign agent. You are not an American citizen, yet you are here advocating violence against members of the United States government.
And if there's been this cover-up, if there's been this lying going on where certain individuals in the intelligence community and the defense community have essentially conspired with sections of private aerospace to criminally, illegally conceal stuff from congressional oversight, well, not only should they be tarred and feathered and dragged around Washington, D.C. and stoned behind a Humvee, they should also be named and shamed. And if there's been this cover-up,
they should be taken behind a Humvee after they're tarred and feathered and dragged around Washington, D.C. They should be tarred and feathered and taken behind a Humvee and stoned to death. This is the rhetoric. And by the way, in case you're curious, David Grusch painted a target on several U.S. lawmakers. Now, he didn't rise to the level of calling for violence against these people, but don't worry, Lue Elizondo's sock puppet brigade, once David Grusch painted a target on that person, Lue Elizondo's sock puppet brigade and his merry band of assholes, this, UFO hate group. Hilarious. Happy Thanksgiving, Mike Turner. Mike Turner is one of the people that were identified by Dave Grusch on the biggest podcast in the world, the Joe Rogan podcast, as a so-called enemy of disclosure. This is just one example. I could show you 30 more examples of people attacking these people because they were termed to be enemies of disclosure by either Ross Coulthart or Dave Grusch or whoever, right? And the working theory is that they're being paid off by the people who are really blocking disclosure. They're being paid off to stop disclosure. So we have to attack them on Twitter. And then Ross Coulthart goes on a public live stream and calls for these people to be tarred and feathered and stoned behind a Humvee after being dragged around Washington, D.C. It's definitely not a cult, though, right? It's definitely not a cult. Now, I don't want to spend too long on this, but I have provided the links in the description of this video. There is a now I'm going to have a problem with it. Hold on one second. Let me get to my email because I don't want to misspeak. The author of this document. Oh no, I put it in the description of the video here. So one second. Let me just get to my own video description. I apologize. My notes are a little incomplete this evening. One second here. Let me get to that. So there's an author and researcher. There's two articles that show just how completely and totally wrong and flawed this so-called UAP transparency amendment that they're trying to ram through Congress. By the way, you're not ramming legislation through Congress on fake information or no evidence. These clowns, all of them that I've been talking about, Ross Coulthart, Lue Elizondo, Gary Nolan, Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp, all pushed this guy to go make these claims and then testify before Congress, but not have any evidence to share. That's what they're using to try to ram this legislation through. A man that has no evidence for 175 days now of his claims. And I'm here to tell you, you people with your disclosure boners, that's not a good way to get legislation passed, having no evidence and somebody you say is a whistleblower, but he can't show any evidence in a public forum or a public setting, and who says more on his, I guess, paid interviews than he does when he's testifying before Congress. That's not a good way to get things passed. But there is a researcher and author, Jensine Andresen, who was recently on our friend Louis Caetano's channel. I've included both links, the link to the document they discussed, excellent, well-written document that points out all the problems with this legislation, and a link to an interview with her by our friend Louis Caetano, or Louis. I keep forgetting. I should ask him, which one is it? I've heard people say it both ways, so I apologize, Mr. Caetano. You have to let me know so I don't make that mistake in the future if I am indeed making that mistake. And then I also put a link in the description of the video to Jeremy Mcgowan's article. detailing all of the immense problems with this Schumer legislation. Maybe we'll do a part 2 of this broadcast and share more. But I wanted to share the most important parts from this excellent legislation breakdown by Jensine Andresen, a person that I'm not familiar with, but I'm going to reach out and see if we can't get an interview here as well. But I hate to recreate the wheel because Mr. Caetano already covered this document in great detail. It's in the description of the video. Hey, I'm going to give you some homework to keep the broadcast brief. We could go through 2 hours of that too, but I'd rather not. So let me share my screen here. And this is the document, which details sort of a breakdown of how this all came about. We've got March 28th, members of Senate Armed Service Committee called for greater funding for AARO. April 19th, I'll just read you the highlighted portions. Kirkpatrick explained that AARO has more than 36 experts working in 4 areas: operations, scientific research, integrated analysis, and strategic communications. He stated that a small percentage of UAP cases have anomalous signatures and showed a slide entitled Collecting UAP Reporting Trends from 1996 to 2023. Then in June, the Wired article from Mr. Laszlo, Gillibrand states that she would seek to add language to the NDAA that cuts off funding from SAPs. What are SAPs? Special Access Programs. So Gillibrand states she wants to put language in to cut funding from SAPs that are not broadly reported to Congress. She states we need to just look into whether there are rogue special access programs that no one is providing oversight for. She adds that her goal is to have a hearing to assess if such special access programs actually exist. Gillibrand is one of the sponsors of the UAP legislation proposed for the NDAA FY24 that would mandate that no money can be spent on special access programs unless they have been broadly reported to Congress. So if there are SAPs out there that are somehow outside the normal chain of command and outside normal appropriations process, they have to divulge that to Congress, Gillibrand states. Regarding whether Grusch's claims are true, Gillibrand states, I have no idea. So here we have a member of the United States government trying to ram through legislation based on David Grusch's so-called revelations, and she doesn't even know if his claims are true, and in fact, at a recent public appearance was making fun of him and the whole situation. She claims she has no idea if they are true, adding, so I'm going to work and analyze it and figure it out. What I find interesting here, says this author, is that Gillibrand certainly must know that waived SAPs, special access programs, are perfectly legal and are not rogue. And also that waived special access programs are overseen by 8 of the most senior and powerful members of Congress. Yes, the so-called Gang of 8. In other words, she would know that her comment supposing that, quote, no one is providing oversight for SAPs is false and misleading. See the problem here? It's like the lunatics are running the asylum here. They don't even know what they're doing. They don't even know how the government actually works, but they're making sweeping statements. This article goes on to state, yet even Gillibrand follows the same script as Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, you know him, the wackadoo who claims he briefed every sitting U.S. president since Ronald Reagan, but no, he didn't. There's no evidence of that. He also claimed that members of his team were assassinated and that he was offered $5 billion to stop talking about aliens. And he sells an app for $10 where you too can talk to aliens and summon spaceships. Yeah, that guy. Same script as Greer and Grusch, which is to refer to perfectly legal waived special access programs as rogue. Again, these programs are not rogue, nor are they unconstitutional, unsanctioned, or illegal, or any of the other incendiary adjectives, that people such as Greer, Grusch, and now Gillibrand use to describe them. To the contrary, waived special access programs are helpful, useful, and legal entities that safeguard and otherwise protect the most classified U.S. information and technology that exists. There is nothing the least bit illegal when waived SAPs are exempted from broad disclosures to Congress. Nothing extrajudicial is occurring. To the contrary, waived SAPs, some IRADs, and certain CAPs, this is all intelligence jargon, are intended to keep very secret information very secret, precisely in order to protect U.S. national security. So basically, if they ram this very flawed legislation, being essentially co-written by UFO wackadoos like Dr. Stephen Greer and Grusch, because the lawmakers are using the same language they are in their false, fake disinformation talking points, we're going to have a national security nightmare on our hands. But hey, just ram it through because we want the truth about those aliens. Who cares? Do you know that some of these special access programs involve counterterrorism and people embedded and informants? And if that gets out, people could literally be murdered. What if one of those rogue, they're calling rogue, I don't call them rogue, but what if one of those special access programs involves informants on ISIS, informants on Hezbollah, or informants of terrorist activity against the United States? And those are in special access programs that aren't broadly disclosed to Congress for secrecy's sake. And this stupid legislation gets passed and all those people get outed and murdered. Then what? Well, we've got a real national security problem on our hands. And this is what people are, this is what happens when you write legislation based on the false, fake, disinformation talking points of known UFO scammers and grifters like Dr. Stephen Greer, and people that for 175 days now have been making claims of programs and alien bodies and everything for 175 days now with no actual evidence. Another highlighted portion. The Secretary of Defense may waive any requirement that certain information. Okay, wait, let me back up. As I have pointed out elsewhere, waived special access programs are governed by statute. She gives the statute. Special access programs, congressional oversight. According to Section E1 of the law, the Secretary of Defense may waive any requirement that certain information be included in a report if the Secretary determines that inclusion of that information in the report would adversely affect the national security. Any such waiver shall be made on a case-by-case basis. Special access programs, 2011, and she cites two sources. However, even when the Secretary of Defense decides legally to leave certain information out of reports to the full Congress, waived SAPs are still subject to congressional oversight. That would be by the Gang of 8. It requires the Secretary of Defense to provide information on such waived SAP jointly to the chairman and ranking minority member of each of the defense committees. Section G defines chairman and ranking minority member of each defense committee, and defines the term defense committees. So, as that section of the law makes clear, the aforementioned designated members of Congress possess oversight of waived SAPs even when the Secretary of Defense decides that national security guards are so significant that only the select group in Congress should be briefed. In other words, all waived SAPs are sanctioned and legal. We have seen zero evidence or proof of rogue special access programs, despite the rhetoric. This article goes on to state, since the very purpose of waived SAPs is to provide a mechanism whereby particularly sensitive information can be safeguarded for the purpose of robust national security. If any reverse engineering programs for extraterrestrial craft exist, they would be in a waived SAP or IRAD or CAP or something similar, which is precisely where they should remain so that they're not subject to broad disclosure to Congress. In the case of extraterrestrial UAP, notifying the 8 members of Congress, who sometimes are referred to as the Gang of 8, is more than sufficient for oversight purposes. Notifying any additional members of Congress creates potential counterintelligence, counterterrorism, and espionage leaks to the United States. So maybe, just maybe, this Schumer amendment is not getting killed because people don't want disclosure about aliens. Maybe it's getting killed because it's all based on lies from Stephen Greer and unproven claims from Dave Grusch. And to put this amendment through as it's written would seriously endanger United States national security. And by the way, I did speak to a career intelligence person about this who agrees with this author's assertion and has read the legislation and said to me that it is a, quote, shit show, unquote. That's what this legislation is. This is what happens when lawmakers just listen to UFO wackadoos who don't understand how the system works. Oh, there's rogue government programs that don't have oversight. Well, no, there isn't. Those are legal. That doesn't have all of congressional oversight. Only select members have access to that information or be read in. And by the way, this is further proof that Grusch's claims that he can't share more information because it's classified are completely and totally false. If alien technology, alien crash retrievals, or alien spaceships were part of a special access program or these other unacknowledged special access programs, he would never have been cleared to even mention them in public. That would be a security risk. So alien crash retrievals, alien technology, alien bodies, alien spaceships, we can assume are not part of any of these special access programs. Because if they were, they would be so secret that only the Gang of Eight would be providing oversight. Therefore, they would be highly classified. He wouldn't even be able to mention them. And by the way, you can look up USAP, or Unacknowledged Special Access Program. That's a whole nother level, right? So the legislation is completely and totally a shit show. It's completely and totally flawed. Despite the legality keeping waived SAP secures by requiring oversight by 8 members of Congress only, Grusch claims that certain SAPs involving UAP are, quote, avoiding oversight. He also claims to know the names of such SAPs. Here, Grusch sounds like a recording of Greer. Given that neither Grusch nor Greer are in the Gang of Eight themselves, it concerns me greatly that either man would know the names of such highly classified programs, especially since both men claim that other people gave them that information. Here's where it gets interesting. The whistleblower protections that were part of the NDAA fiscal year 2023 did not include a specific provision stating that people with highly classified information could relay that information specifically to Grusch or to Dr. Stephen Greer. Assuming such programs even exist, if they really wanted to act legally themselves, any genuine and legitimate whistleblowers should have presented that information to Arrow, not to Grusch and not to Greer, neither of whom should have agreed to hear such information if it were classified. Neither Grusch nor Greer ever worked for Arrow, and Greer never worked for the U.S. government at all. From 2019 to 2021, Grusch was a representative to the UAP Task Force from the National Reconnaissance Office. And from late 2021 to July 2022, he was a representative from the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the NGA, to the UAPTF. But Grusch heard from so-called whistleblowers prior to the NDAA fiscal year 2023 being passed, which is the legislation that provides protections for whistleblowers. So he had no right to hear about any of this stuff then, apparently. Furthermore, even this legislation does not say that whistleblowers can go to Grusch or, for example, to Greer, which of course would be ludicrous. It says whistleblowers can go to Arrow. And remember, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick is on the record saying that they reached out to Grusch several times. He refused to come in and share his so-called evidence with them. Could it be because he knows about what we're describing here for you? This is a real problem for Grusch, Greer, and all of you disclosure boner rejects that don't understand how the world really works. Besides, the UAPTF was disbanded November 23rd, 2021. By the time the whistleblower protection was signed into law on December 23rd, 2022, an entirely different entity had existed after the UAPTF was disbanded and prior to ARROW being created. Namely, boy, they love their acronyms, AOIMSG, which means that even Grusch's participation with the UAPTF was one step removed from ARROW. There is no direct continuity here chronologically, on top of the fact that the NDAA fiscal year 2023 states that whistleblowers need to go to ARROW. A real whistleblower would go to ARROW. Dave Grusch has so far refused to go to ARROW. In addition, if Grusch heard from any whistleblowers after he lost security clearances in August 2022, it would make this entire situation even more problematic. Problematic, that is, if Grusch and or Greer ever heard any information whatsoever that genuinely was classified. But because neither Grusch nor Greer have been arrested, then one must consider the logical possibility that neither man has ever heard anything whatsoever genuinely related to extraterrestrial technology, since, of course, such information would be classified at the highest possible level. A cynical interpretation of events is that Grusch and Greer have been used to create theater to move forward a legislative agenda relating to UAP propulsion and or material. In this interpretation, it is the legislative agenda that is the objective, with both Grusch and Greer being used as means to try to facilitate that end. In other words, they're both being used as useful idiots to ram this legislation through, possibly so that people with UFO organizations can get government funding, right? What have we been talking about? How many people? Oh, Grusch is part of an organization seeking government funding and public funding, the Soul Foundation, right? That had their foundation that was just filled with people that are shady, that have been caught selling fake alien stories, right? I think that this is an interesting document, and it explained things much better than I could. July 20th, 2023, ARROW's Kirkpatrick tried to get ahead of negative aspersions he correctly anticipates will emerge during the House UAP hearing 1 week later. He writes, I cannot let yesterday's hearing pass without sharing how insulting it was to the officers of the Department of Defense and Intelligence community who chose to join ARROW, many with not unreasonable anxieties about the career risks this would entail. Given the specifics of the hearing, it is not difficult to understand Kirkpatrick's frustration. And finally, the pressure put on Keene and Blumenthal to publish quickly by people they do not name supports my speculation that the real agenda was a legislative one, and that it had almost nothing to do with what Grusch knew or did not know. The time pressure to publish was present because Grusch had to be rolled out into mainstream awareness and in front of Congress with sufficient time for fiscal year 2024 IAA NDAA legislation to be introduced into the Senate and to have time to proceed through the Senate's voting process. People need to keep their eyes on the legislative ball that is being pushed forward, not on Grusch and his ominous claims. So isn't that interesting? I think everybody should read this entire document. I highly, highly recommend it. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves if we don't understand what may actually be happening here. There may be a reason that they roll out a guy who's making huge claims of rogue projects and unacknowledged special access programs that are illegal and beyond congressional oversight. And by the way, as a lifetime, as an intelligence officer for even a few years, you would understand the special access program process and how there is congressional oversight, just not through the entirety of the broad Congress, but through the Gang of Eight. He would know that there was oversight. So what is the deal here? And why are we at 175 days of absolutely zero evidence of claims being made? And isn't it interesting that Joe Rogan recently essentially said that he believes that David Grusch is being used as a useful idiot for some purpose. This could be the useful idiot purpose right here. Help us ram this legislation through for whatever reason. This incredibly flawed legislation, which, by the way, would create an intelligence nightmare on more than one front, right? And I think it's pretty interesting. And finally, just to close out, we'll go to Joe Rogan and his. This is after, remember, when you go do Joe Rogan, you don't just do the show. You have dinner with him the night before, you talk to him for a few hours, you pre-game the podcast, and then the next day you record the podcast. So Joe Rogan spent hours and hours with this man. And it seems to me that despite his being very cordial in the interview, he came away completely unconvinced of David Grusch's claims. Instead, deciding that David Grusch is most likely being used for some purpose as a useful idiot. Isn't that interesting?
David Grusch is that UFO whistleblower that testified in front of Congress.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, man. The thing about it is, I believe he's telling the truth as far as what he's experienced and the documents that he uncovered and the people that he talked to.
I wonder if Joe Rogan knows that so far the only documents that he uncovered were largely thought to be fake hoax documents because they haven't appeared anywhere else in history. They can't be found in any Italian archive or anywhere else. They're just showed up in a UFO promoter profiteer's mailbox one day, much like the MJ-12 documents. And these were documents related to the completely and totally fake UFO crash in Italy case. Those are the only documents that we know that he's actually seen or referenced. So does Joe Rogan know that those documents are fake that he referenced? I don't know.
But how do you know whether or not they're just using him as a useful idiot to just get out some silly story because they're covering up for the fact that there's some very advanced drone system that the United States government has that they're trying to keep under wraps?
There you have it. And you will, I don't know if you care, but some 3 years ago, we did a show. It's called the Dark Playground Hypothesis. You could still find it in our archives, in which I speculated almost this exact thing that Mr. Rogan here is speculating about. And the Dark Playground Hypothesis that I have, there's a reason that all of these intelligence people, like Lue Elizondo, like Anjali, former Defense Intelligence Agency information warfare specialist, like John Ramirez, former CIA guy, right? Like John D'Souza, who claims he was the FBI's X-Files guy. There's a reason that all these three-letter agency people invaded the UFO community virtually altogether. And I believe that there's an agenda here to cover something up. Why are there so many three-letter agency people involved in the UFO community? DIA, FBI, CIA. Why, imagine if you went to a Star Trek convention and it was filled with CIA guys. That would be a national story. Like, what are all these CIA guys doing here at a Star Trek convention? But somehow, in the world of UFOs and aliens, it's just okay. And even though we were all told that the United States government is covering up alien bodies and crash retrievals and alien spaceship visitation on Earth for 70 years, somehow now some members of the government are retiring from their government jobs, getting cushy, book deals, TV deals, documentary deals to tell us the truth about aliens. It also includes Richard Doty, admitted, known, paid disinformation agent. By the way, he's on a disclosure show now, the biggest UFO circle jerk disclosure show on YouTube, hosting a known, admitted, paid government disinformation agent all the time to tell us the truth about the aliens, right? Anyway, my Dark Playground Hypothesis points out the CIA, DIA infiltration of intelligence people into the UFO community. And I believe that their purpose here is to spread disinformation, misinformation, false information, and fake narratives. It's typical magician's misdirection. Look here, not over here. While everybody's so concerned with Grusch's claims, nobody's doing any real research into whether these programs actually exist, who may be actually hiding the technology, what is really going on. We're all just waiting. We've been waiting 6 months now for Grusch to drop his so-called, evidence. And by the way, there's no difference between Stephen Greer and David Grusch, with the possible exception that Grusch was a government insider and has military experience. No difference, though. They both use anonymous sources constantly. They both get caught lying. They both refuse to provide evidence when pressed for their claims. There's no difference between David Grusch, David Wilcock, Corey Good, and Stephen Greer. They're all doing the same shuffle here. And no one seems to notice, or no one seems to mind, that if we look into the history of this thing, the very same people that sold us the Lue Elizondo lie are selling us Dave Grusch. But there's some new people like Ross Coulthard, who's been caught selling at least 5 completely and totally fake stories in recent years. Then we've got Gary Nolan, who's been involved and is now Dave Grusch's boss. He's been involved in completely and totally fake alien and UFO stories for profit. We've got Leslie Keene, who lied in the New York Times article and just didn't do any research on Lue Elizondo's claims. We've got Lue Elizondo. We've got Christopher Mellon. We've got Hal Puthoff, the original OG gangster of paranormal grifting, all supporting Grusch. That's not a coincidence. And if you think it is, you haven't been studying the history of this thing anywhere near long enough. So I think we've covered adequately what I want to cover this evening. We want to take a moment to thank all of you kind and generous benefactors for your kindness, generosity, and support. For those unaware, we read every single super chat because, I'm here for the money, right? Steve Long with a kind and generous $9.99, a longtime show supporter and probably one of my most requested guests to come back. You ought to do that soon, Steve Long. Props to Stephen, a valuable UFO watchdog, checking the facts and bringing receipts. Thank you for your acknowledgement of that, and thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Steve Long is a great researcher and a great follow on Twitter. Be sure you follow him on Twitter, and we're going to have him back soon. I'm not here. This isn't happening with a kind and generous £9.99, I think. How many so-called debunkers are sporting Audinair's Piquet Royal Oak watches worth $100,000 on their podcasts? I don't know if it's true. I'm not here. This isn't happening. Did a screen cap of Jeremy Corbell, and he does appear. Somebody said it's not, but until Jeremy Corbell denies this, Jeremy Corbell will ask you publicly, are you wearing a $100,000 watch on your podcast? Good point. I'm not here. This isn't happening. It won't be long before Matt Ford is wearing a $100,000 watch on his podcast. That's my prediction. These clowns that say the debunkers are here for the money are all making millions of dollars. Ross Coulthard's probably making hundreds of thousands, if not millions. Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp have verifiably made hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, out of telling UFO fairy tales. Leslie Keene's making money telling UFO fairy tales. Of course, Matt Ford, that UFO podcast, all the disclosure boner shows. If it has the word disclosure in the title of the show, it's fake. It's just fake. There, I said it. All these clowns that are selling the same group of UFO scammers, liars, grifters, and con artists, and by the way, those are just the good guys. All these people selling those people are going to come after debunkers. What's Mick West's track record like? What's Michael Shermer's track record like? How many times have both of them been wrong? How many times have either of those two individuals, or me, I'll throw me in there with that, How many times have we been caught selling a completely and totally fake story for tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars? To my knowledge, not once. But somehow we get attacked for bringing people the truth, or we get called disinformation agents. By the way, if you're going to disparage me on Twitter, that's a form of slander. You better have evidence and proof that I work for the CIA if you're going to publicly claim that in an attempt to damage my show, my reputation, and me. If you're going to try to slander me or libel me, you better have evidence. You better have proof. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Yeah, I'm just here for the money. It's such a stupid argument. If I was here for the money, I would change my show name to Disclosure Today, and I would interview, just like the UFO circle jerks, the Disclosure Boner Bros. I would interview every wackadoo on YouTube telling alien stories and just sit there and go, really, this is a great story. Really? Wow, that's awesome. That's what I would do. If I really just was here for money, that's what I would do. I'm not here for money. I'm here for the mission. Myself and many other people, it's not just me anymore, are completely and totally tired of these scammers and UFO bullshit artists that suck all the money out of the entire world of the internet for their fake bullshit stories. We're sick of it. We're not going to take it anymore. So people can say whatever they want. They have invalid arguments against me. And by the way, all I have to do is pull up. I don't have a track record of selling completely and totally fake alien and UFO stories. Jeremy Corbell does. George Knapp does. Lue Elizondo lied through his teeth in the New York Times article. Ross Coulthart's been caught selling at least 5 completely and totally verifiably fake stories. Leslie Keene got the whole New York Times article completely and totally factually wrong. Admitted that she left out the werewolves and the dino beavers because she wanted the UFO subject to be taken more seriously. Oh, she left out the hitchhikers and the poltergeists and the demons too. She left those out. These people are not honest actors here. These people are not. I love it. Oh, they're here for the truth. Then why do they just keep getting caught lying to everybody? If they're here for the truth, why do they keep selling fake stories? If they're here for the truth, why do they keep getting caught lying? But you're going to attack somebody like me with an 8-year track record of providing factual, evidence-based information that usually, if not always so far, has turned out to be accurate. And here's another thing for you disclosure boner dorks to think about. While all these assholes pushing the Grusch story right now, many of them push the false TTSA CIA threat op narrative. That turned out to be a Techno scam, didn't it? Under possible SEC investigation, right? The same people pushing the Grusch story did not push back on Lue Elizondo. I did. They were wrong about Lue Elizondo. They couldn't wait to lick his balls because he ran a $22 million government Pentagon UFO program. Even though he didn't, he never did. They were wrong on Lue Elizondo. They were wrong on TTSA, wrong on Hal Puthoff, wrong on Christopher Mellon, wrong on Jeremy Corbell, wrong on George Knapp, wrong on Bob Lazar. But you think they're right about Grusch? By the way, I was right about Lue Elizondo. I was right about TTSA. I've been right about Bob Lazar since I started my show. I've been right about most of the stories that we present here. And all the people pushing the Grusch garbage fest have been wrong about everything in their track record. Ross Coulthart selling completely and totally fake stories. He's been wrong about everything. And I have correctly reported on all those same stories. But you're going to tell me I'm just wrong on Grusch? And by the way, cards on the table, I may be. But history is our greatest teacher. And if you think you're getting the truth or disclosure from all these people who've been caught lying to everyone in the UFO community, and in fact, the world over and over and over and over again, If you think you're getting the truth and disclosure from people who keep getting caught lying to you, who keep selling fake stories, right? Then you live in a delusional fantasy world. And that delusional fantasy world is called disclosure. I can't promise you any form of disclosure other than I will dig into a story. I will do my due diligence and do my very, very best to factually report on what's really happening. And unlike these circle jerkers like Matt Ford and every disclosure show on YouTube and that UFO podcast and Calling All Beings and what is that? There's so many of them that I lose track. Right? And Third Phase of Loon and the Goofy Guy. Like, unlike those people, I haven't been wrong over and over and over again. I haven't promoted and profited from proven liars and scammers before, and all of them have. So I never ask for much here. I'm asking you, copy the link to our YouTube channel, share it with anybody you know that's interested in these topics, and challenge them to see the other side of the story, the side of the story that all these grifter, scammer, liar, disclosure advocates keep conveniently leaving out, right? How many more interviews is Matt Ford going to let somebody who's been provably caught selling fake stories just give a pass? How many passes are you going to give, Matt Ford, you propaganda minister? But these people are going to bring us disclosure. And again, all the things that I mentioned in the beginning of my broadcast won't bring you disclosure. Flares, pretending flares are alien spaceships is not going to bring you disclosure. Pretending a fake scientist, convicted bankrupt pimp that never worked for the government or stepped foot on Area 51, worked on flying saucers, isn't going to bring you disclosure. Pretending that a disgraced Australian journalist who keeps getting caught selling fake stories over and over and over and over again is going to bring you the truth or disclosure? No, I don't think so. And pretending a fake Pentagon UFO program director who lied about his entire background in order to get a TV show deal and a book deal, allegedly, in my opinion, that's what he did, and that's why he did it. He's not going to bring you the truth, and he's not going to bring you disclosure. They're all here to fill their pockets with every dollar they can. So people can disparage me all they want. People can claim I'm a CIA asset with absolutely no evidence of that. By the way, the CIA, if you're listening, I never got my checks. Everybody's saying that you're paying me. Send me the check. I may consider it. Our show needs income, right? But to say that stuff, again, when we have a proven track record of giving people accurate, honest information or trying our very best to, and all these other people that we're reporting on accurately get caught lying constantly, but I'm the bad guy, right? I'm the enemy of disclosure. Nope. I haven't said it yet, so I'm going to say it now. Disclosure is canceled because everybody involved in the so-called disclosure movement is a proven liar who sells fake information, disinformation, false information, and fake stories for cash. There, I said it. It's a big club, and I ain't in it. I ain't in it. And you need to ask yourself, how many times will you let all these people lie to you before you at least admit the possibility that they're lying to you again? All right, friends, we'll turn our total attention to the live chat. Oh, look at that. I didn't realize. Thank you. See, I stopped checking that for a moment and then it fills up. I ought to keep doing that. Very kind and generous people. Scrub J93 with a kind and generous $10 says, chipping in to help Stephen debunk UFO nonsense. And we appreciate you for that. Thanks for appreciating us, Scrub J93. We appreciate you. Deb from SAC, longtime show supporter and a YouTube channel member, says, we're not going to take it anymore. Absolutely. And thank you, Deb from SAC. We have Lucy Day with a kind and generous $10 Australian super sticker. No message, but we appreciate you and thanks for appreciating us. And we thank Al Warrior, longtime show supporter. Oh no, the demonic amount, $6.66. 666. Thanks for being a member, Al Warrior, and being a longtime show supporter and a YouTube channel member, and for throwing a couple bucks in our hat, longtime show supporter. So we want to thank all of our kind and generous benefactors. I'm not here. This isn't happening. Steve Long, Scrub J93. We want to thank Deb from SAC, Lucy Day, Al Warrior. Oh, and look at that. That is awesome. Talmud is a member and just gifted 10 True Seekers memberships. So if you should log into the live chat and suddenly you have a YouTube channel membership badge, it's through, I think it just does it randomly, Talmud, like they just give them out to subscribers. So if you're a subscriber, check your user ID. It's very kind and generous of you. I think that's $50. It's a $5 membership. You gifted 10 True Seekers membership. Boy, we're praising the cash tonight. Talmud must be from the CIA trying to slyly pay me so that there's no paper trail. That must be what it is. But thanks to all of you for helping us to praise the cash, bitches!
You're watching True Seekers. Praise the cash, praise the
cash. Thanks all of you. So many kind and generous people. So we're going to take some comments and questions from the live chat. We're only at 2 hours and 15 minutes in. We're going to call this a short one tonight. I don't know how, but we got back to the I think it's a bad habit of doing 4-hour streams. I realize people don't have that long, so I'm trying to cram as much information as I can into 1 2-hour show. Sometimes we go over. Talmud, there we go. We have your back from the CIA. Yeah. Look, I want a badge too. Can I get a badge? I'm gonna be like Elvis. Remember when Elvis, he just like walked into the White House and he wanted a badge for being a federal agent? And the funny thing is somehow Nixon got him one, and he would show people that badge for the rest of his life and claim that he was a federal agent. Garaji saying praise the cash. J Bench 27. Everybody's praising the cash. So comments or questions for me, Ardent Paranormal, or sole and only chat room moderator, reminding people, please put questions for Stephen in all capital letters. For those unaware, I'm half blind, so it really does help me to understand that comment is meant for me to share. Steve Long, nice show of support from the chat tonight. Yes, and by the way, we want to thank all of you kind and generous people. I'm going to have to look them up. When we do those replays, I don't get to thank people. Let me see if I can check that right now. I think that I should be able to. And we can thank those people as well. For those unaware, we thank every single person. Okay, we thank Tales of the Sonic Voyage for a kind and generous $5 super chat during our Let's All Laugh at Stephen Greer and Kerry Cassidy episode. Wow, we thank Keith Gardette for a kind and generous $20 super chat, who says, Happy Turkey Day, Stephen. Where is Bill Brockbrader when we need him? And Tales of the Sonic Voyage said, thanks, Stephen. This has got to be good. Amy WC, we thank for a kind and generous $10, who says, keep talking. We thank Nivak Spikomen for a kind and generous £2, who says exit via the Griff shop. Yeah, so Third Coast Swing for a kind and generous $9.99. Anthony Peterson for a kind and generous $5. Chris Damaris for kind and generous $19.99. Zizix for kind and generous $2. UFO John Doe for kind and generous $19.99. Now we should be all caught up on the super chats. But look at that. Talmud gifted 10 True Seekers memberships. Very, very nice. Talmud says, you deserve it, Stephen. This channel is criminally underrated. Yeah, we're just trying to get to that magic number. I keep hearing from everybody that I know that has a show bigger than mine says, just get to 10,000 subscribers, and then the recommends really pick up and things get easier. We need like 700 more subscribers, right? Yes, Algaray says Talmud is surely CIA. I believe that, right? And Steve Long says, it's always a blast to chat with Stephen and the Truth Seekers audience. Yes. Old School Comp Sci says, do you think we'll have disclosure sometime in the next 20 years? No, I don't. Because I am still unconvinced that there is verifiable real evidence of extraterrestrial visitation on Earth. There's an awful lot of stories and unverified witness testimony or uncorroborated witness testimony. You know, I think that if the so-called thing called disclosure would be real and would really happen, there would have to be some first steps. And one of the first steps is that we'd have to have real and verifiable, indisputable smoking gun evidence or proof that aliens from other star systems, or just call them NHI if you like that term, even though somebody, isn't it interesting? Grusch pointed out that NHI is a term that was created by UFO scammers back in the 50s. Interesting. Or fake documents. It first appeared in completely and totally fake documents. So I think that if disclosure were to really happen, it would have to be a process, not to sound like Lue Elizondo, because he's, you know, oh, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Fake UFO program director. Anyway, there would have to be a process. And the first part of that process would be we'd have to see undeniable evidence or proof of alien visitation on Earth or non-human visitation on Earth. We'd have to have at least some smoke gun evidence or proof that would be indisputable first. That would be the first step. And until we have that, we're not even at the first step of disclosure. These disclosure boner bros, like the people at the Soul Foundation, they're getting up and on a microphone in front of witnesses and saying, we're halfway through disclosure. No, the very first step in a process, in this process, should be indisputable smoking gun evidence or proof of alien visitation on Earth. Until we have that, the disclosure has not begun. But of course, we have people like Ross Coulthart and George Knapp who claim they have indisputable smoking gun evidence or proof of alien visitation on Earth, but they refuse to share it. Isn't that convenient? Yeah, it's really problematic. Bobby Broadway, Stephen needs that exercise jack-off thing. Yeah, I'm going to get one of them. And every time I say circle jerk, I'll pick it up and shake it, right? That's a good idea. I could use some new props. We'll check that out. Al Warrior says UFO circle jerkers. Bobby Broadstone says UHF, but call it UAP. Yes, Rise Above, thank you for being a member, says we could have had the truth at least, but this ragtag bunch ruined it. Yeah, I'm totally fascinated, Rise Above, by all these people who think they're getting the truth out of a group of literal proven 100% liars, right? Yeah, Crypto Alchemist says, you are shadow banned like me. They won't let us reach 10K. Well, we'll see about that. I try to stop looking at the numbers, Crypto Alchemist, because we went back and forth between 9350. I'm not kidding you, 10 times. Every day we'd hit 9350, then it would jack back to 9344. And then I'd wait a few days and we'd hit 9350 again. Then it'd be 9348. And like, I can't take it. Now we're at 9360 something. But I'm going to try to stop looking at it because that back and forth is driving me crazy. I didn't mind looking at it when it was a slow, steady climb up, but when it's up, down, up, down, up, down, I don't know what's causing it. And by the way, I would ask you all, find a friend, send our channel address. I'm going to put our channel address in the description of this video, or it's already in the description of the video. I'm going to put it into the live chat and ask you for a favor. Share this channel with your friends. Share this channel and ask them to subscribe. I'm going to put that into the live chat. There's the link, and I am going to pin this message in the live chat. If you're listening on any other platform, audio podcast or otherwise, the link to our YouTube channel is in the description of the video. Please share that and ask people to subscribe. We would appreciate that. It really would help. hopefully this next whistleblower is unable to use the word skiff, says Nicosa Connection. Yeah, I'm tired of hearing about skiffs, right? They keep deleting old and new subscribers from us who are actually shadow banned. Yeah, I've seen in the YouTube comments here that several people said, I don't know why, but I got unsubscribed from you. I had to resubscribe. So please check and make sure that you're a subscriber to our channel if you think you are. And if not, smash that subscribe button like a bitch again. Refuse to be unsubscribed until you decide to unsubscribe. Zizix, thank you for a kind and generous $2. By the way, Zizix bought a bunch of YouTube memberships before as well. Longtime show supporter, thank you for that. YouTube channel member, thank you for that. Buying a bunch of YouTube channel memberships, thank you for that. Throwing a couple extra bucks in our hat, thank you very much for that. Says your CIA handles are pocketing your money. Yeah, my handlers, that must be what it is. But thank you, Zizix, and thank you all for helping us to praise them.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
Yeah, so what can I say, friends? We've yeah, look at this. Lucy Day says, happened to me when I first subscribed a few months ago. And Lucy Day is a YouTube channel member. Yeah, that is crazy. Make sure you allow gifts as well, friends. You can click the memberships I gave at the top of the chat and press allow gifts. I think we allow gifts. You can click the memberships I gave. Oh, yeah, the users have to allow gifts. So if you want a gift membership, because there's a bunch of them available, click to allow gifts so that you too can get maybe get a free membership with us, courtesy of Talmud, my CIA handler. All right, listen, we've done our due diligence. We have fought the good fight. I'll be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This week, our live shows are going to be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have done our due diligence. We want to thank you, kind and generous benefactors. I want to thank you, Patreon supporters, you PayPal pledgers, you YouTube channel memberships. We want to thank you, Twitch subscribers. Anybody supporting us, we thank all of you. And to all of you people who are liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing, yes, that really does help. We appreciate all of you as well. And a final note, we have a huge archive of previous shows. Please go back and watch one. Maybe not tonight. You've had enough of me tonight, but maybe tomorrow, the next day, while you're driving, while you're traveling, while you're cleaning, while you're working, whatever you're doing, take me with you. We'd appreciate it. So, yeah, we've done our due diligence. We'll be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's all I got for you, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night.